Hi there, and welcome to this episode of Beyond the Photo with me, Damien Jackson. In this video, I'm heading away for a 2-day adventure in the van to the Beara Peninsula in West Cork. In particular, I'm heading to the coastal village of Aillihes, where there are some old mining shafts and some engine rooms dating back to the 1800s. Now, they look similar to ones on the Copper Coast, and also I believe there's a lot of them in the UK, particularly down around the Cornwall area, and they're all built off of the same plans as such. Now what I'm hoping to do is get a sunset shot this evening, stay over, and a sunrise in the morning. So I'll check in with you further down the road. Thank you for joining me along the journey, and let's hope we get a few shots. Aillihes Parish is located on the western tip of the Beara Peninsula and stretches between Cod's Head to the northwest and Dursey Island to the southwest. Aillihes is the furthest village in Ireland from the capital, Dublin, at some 394 kilometres away by road. Mining for copper on an industrial scale began in Aillihes around 1812. The main mine was at Duneen, a hill or mountain overlooking the village. In 1813, there were 30 workers there, and this rose to 300 by 1815. The man engine houses were used to raise the ore to the surface and prevent the mines from flooding. Similar engine houses are dotted all over Cornwall in the UK, and of course at Tankerstown on the Copper Coast in County Waterford. Now, around 1856, the mine reached down to a depth of 320 metres or 1,000 feet, and the company installed a power ladder or a man engine to transport the workers down and back from the mine before and after their shift. But it wasn't the comfort of the workers that initiated the power ladder, it was the fact that it took 50 minutes for a worker out of a 12-hour shift to get to the bottom, and that resulted in a loss of production. Now, according to the Aillihes Coppermines Museum, a report written for the British Parliament by Mine Inspector Frederick Roper, the local people who worked in the mines mostly spoke Irish only. They were poorly dressed and generally lived on milk and potatoes twice per day, and for some of them, often it was without the milk. Now, manpower was the cheapest that could be bought at the time of the Industrial Revolution, and initially all jobs were completed by men, women and children in Aillihes, with little assistance from horses, donkeys or machinery. Job descriptions included miners who broke the ore and dug the shafts and tunnels, pullers who worked the wheelbarrows underground, windlass men who turned the winches to raise the ore from hundreds of metres below the surface, and bellow boys who, as the name depicts, worked the bellows for the ventilation within the mine. There were numerous other roles, far too many to mention in this short video, but all were completed manually. Fabulous bit of evening sunshine. I wouldn't mind joining them for a pint now, but I got a bit of work to do first. So after the initial drive up the hill, there's a little parking space, and access is quite easy up this little track. The incline is not too steep and it's easy enough going. So there it is. It's in great nick, in fairness. It's an awful pity that they put this wire mesh or chicken wire fence around it, but so I guess they have to for safety wise. There's probably still open mine shafts in there. But we'll get around it some way. So the skies are gone almost too clear now. Now you still have that patch of low cloud just hanging over the mountains there, and I might actually get a shot of that before sunset at all. I still have about an hour and a half to go, and that looks quite well. And then I don't know if you can see, but right in the background you can see the comrade, or the brother of this one here, buried into the hills in the far background, and I might try and get over there tomorrow. Okay, so first shot of the evening. What I've decided to do is come up as close as I can to the chicken wire up on this rock that kind of gives me the elevation to see over it. Now the very bottom of the frame, I've got about that much of the chicken wire in it, but inside the actual compound then there's a rock that leads up to the left, and then it turns right into the actual the engine house itself, and that's what I hope to use as a foreground. So it's a kind of a leading line, and I still have that little piece of cloud and the mountains in the background. So it's quite a simple shot. There's no long exposure, there's no filters here or anything. What I'm shooting at is f11 and 1/25th of a second. And really, that's about it. I'm happy enough with this one. I think there's lovely light on the engine house itself, and there's nice texture within the stones of it. I also like the fact that the mist was down over the mountains in the background, and there's a tiny little bit of a pink hue to that. Now I suppose in terms of landscape photography, it's more of an architectural shot in terms of that it's not really showing the engine house within the landscape. It's a pure picture of the engine house itself, and not really a landscape with an engine house in it, if that makes sense. Look, overall, good start. Although I'm going to move on from here now, I will put a mark, if you like, here, because I think as the sun gets lower, the clouds behind it are actually going to light up. So rather than shooting into the sun, I'll shoot with it, and I think the mist and clouds might catch a bit of colour once that sun drops in another hour or so. For the moment I'm going to shoot down to the right, my right down this way, and see if I can get a different angle on it. So I'm back reaching over the wire again. I moved down to the right, and the wire is even higher down there, so there were no options. As well as that, I found I was square on with the side of the actual engine house itself, and there was no windows or doors. Here, with the sun getting lower and lower, you can see that the shadows that are being left by the windows on the inside, and I think there's really a bit of drama coming into it now. So I'm going to hop up here and get a few shots before I lose this beautiful light. So I think this one does a better job of showing the engine house within the landscape itself. However, I did have problems with the colours on this one. It was almost too saturated or too vibrant. Whatever the colour was in the sun, I had to actually reduce the vibrance, because it looked like I just loaded it into Lightroom and upped the saturation to 100 and left it at that. So again, not fully pleased with this one, but it's not the worst image I've ever taken either. So I think that's me just about done for tonight. Now there is a nice bit of colour in the sky behind me, but if I go on the opposite side, the engine house itself will just be in shadow, so there's no point in that. Now what I hope to do in the morning when the sun is coming from the opposite direction is get up to the opposite side of the engine house and shoot down over the mountains and the sea. Not sure the forecast, they're talking about some cloud and kind of misty stuff rolling in, but you never know, it could come later in the morning, so I could get away with it. So right now it's getting on for 9:45. I'm going to get back to the van, get a bit of grub, and get into the bed and ready to go again for the morning. Good morning. So it's 4:15, bright as a button, not, but ready to go. I've had a quick look out the window and it looks fairly clear. What that really means, I suppose, is look, it's still dark, but it's not raining. I'm just going to have a quick coffee and head back up and hope to hit the engine house from the opposite side this morning. So fingers crossed we'll get a bit of light and let's get going. Now that it's got a bit light, it's not looking good because there seems to be a lot of low hanging cloud. But look, I'll get up here anyway and see how it goes. See, I've got a friend watching me, the king of the hill. So the plan is to get up on that hill just in front of me and look back out towards the sea and place the engine house itself in the foreground. Now already, because I'm up higher, I can feel the dampness and the mist in the air, so I don't know, it's about 20 minutes to sunrise, but just getting a bad feeling. I don't feel there's going to be a breakthrough of colour. Just think it's going to be clouded out. But sure, look, we'll give them a go. So in terms of composition, I've climbed up the hill at the back of the engine house. I'm using these rocks that are leading down the mountain or down the hill as my foreground. And there's some coming up from the left hand bottom edge of the corner of the frame, and I'm going to use those to bring the eye into it. As you can see, the background is fabulous. If you had light, you have the sea and you have the mountains, and just to the left then of the engine house you have the village of Aillihes itself. Now, I've resigned myself to the fact that I'm not going to get any colour this morning, but what happened a few minutes ago is the mist got even heavier than it is now, and it really added some mood to it. So there might be a chance I'll get some nice black and whites. So I'm going to stay here for another few minutes and see if that mist rolls in again, and take some shots and then just start moving around and working the area. Just purely thinking in my mind black and white, because there's not going to be any colour this morning. I tried everything in editing to try and make an image out of this one. In the end, I had to replace the sky because it was nothing, only bland white. The mist never came back in, and I just did a quick job of cloning out the fence, but I wasn't as careful as I could be because I knew I was never going to use this one really. But I just thought I should show you what I got anyway. So I was heading down the road to take some shots, looking up at the engine house up on high. And I just veered off to the left and I found this other composition because there was some light in the sky. And then this sheep came along and she's just added to the photo fabulously. She's perched in just the right place. And a few minutes ago she was actually looking directly at the camera itself. So with the light and the engine house standing out, it made for a nice composition. Now the only problem is I am shooting at the wire fence that's around it, but hopefully from this distance, I'm a bit further back than any of the other shots I've taken, that it won't be as noticeable, and I might even be able to clone it out in post. But as you can see, there's a lovely atmosphere behind the engine house now with the mist, still have a bit of light, and in the distance then the clouds are just moving left to right across in front of it. So for me, I suppose this is the shot of that short trip to Aillihes. The light in the background finally wasn't bland white, and suddenly the sheep appeared, and it's one of those days when, you know, this opportunistic treat just happens to you, and I think, you know, the sheep actually makes the photograph. I have cloned out whatever you can see of the fence around the actual engine house itself, but yeah, I like this one. So that finally wraps it up from up here on the hill. I'm going to give it about 20 minutes more. I'm going to head down the road and see if I can get a composition from the road looking up at the engine house. And that's it. I'm heading back to bed after that. It's getting on now for 7:30, so 2.5, almost 3 hours of shooting done, and there's still no sign of life anywhere around Aillihes. So 20 more minutes, get back into the van and try and catch up on a couple of hours sleep. So I've just come down off of the hill now, and I've just seen a nice shot here where the actual path that I used to walk up to the engine house can be used as a leading line. But in addition to that, the grass here in the foreground, it's kind of mossy, so it's that kind of bright, almost luminous green as well, and there is a bit of detail in the sky behind it. So look, it's nothing amazing, but I'll take a couple of shots of it before moving on. Get the most out of the morning before I finish up. So again, simple shot, f11, shutter speed 1/80th of a second, and ISO 200. To be honest, when I took this photograph first, I just didn't think much of it. And even when I saw it in Lightroom, it didn't really do it for me. But then did a little bit of editing, darkening the sky and putting a little bit of a yellow base into the entire image. And it just seemed to suit it with a little bit of desaturation. And I'm actually quite happy with it. I think the pathway leads right up to the engine house itself, and yeah, it's not a bad image in the end. But I suppose that's fairly subjective, and I'd be interested to hear in your views of this image in the comments below, please. So that's it from me at the engine house at Aillihes on the Beara Peninsula in West Cork. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please leave a like or a comment below. It helps YouTube to spread around the video, and it'll then help me to develop the channel that little bit more. Think about subscribing and you'll be notified of my next video. So until next time, stay safe and bye for now.